Who are you? What are you doing on these tracks at midnight? The man didn't answer like a person should. His voice came out dry, cracked, like it hadn't been used in 100 years. I live just up ahead, Ray asked again. Then why were you standing under that dead tree, staring at nothing? The stranger didn't answer that either. Instead, his eyes locked onto the jar in Ray's hands. What's that you're carrying? Smells sweet. Gimme some. Ray said no. That's when the voice stopped sounding human at all. Stick around, because what happened next is the reason this station has been abandoned for 60 years. And by the end of this story, you won't blame them. Hey everyone, welcome back. If this is your first time here, we tell true, first-hand horror stories sent in by real people about things that happened to them or their families. No actors, no scripts written for shock value, just what was lived and what was left behind. Tonight's story comes from a listener named Daniel, who wanted to share something that happened to his own grandfather back in 1968, deep in the Appalachian Hills of West Virginia. Daniel heard this story from his grandfather's own mouth more than once, and he said every single time, the old man's hands would shake by the end of it. Let's get into it. It was 1968. Ray Colton was 26 years old, working as a night station agent for a small freight line that cut through the hills of rural West Virginia. His post was a station called Hollow Creek, a name that fit because there was nothing around it for miles except wheat fields, one crooked dead sycamore tree by the tracks, and two rusted iron rails running straight into the dark. There was no real lighting at Hollow Creek, just a kerosene lamp in the station office and whatever moonlight decided to show up. Ray lived in the old railway staff quarters right behind the station, a drafty, high-ceilinged building built decades before he was even born. The kind of place where the wood creaks even when nobody's walking. That particular night, the sky was clear. No fog, no clouds. Just an unusually still pitch-black quiet, the kind that presses on your ears. It was almost 2 a.m. Ray had just bolted his door, dropped onto his bed, and closed his eyes. Then, a knock. Soft, deliberate. Ray sat up. "Who is it?" "It's Walt," came the voice through the door. "Mr. Harmon sent me. Says it's important." Ray opened the door to find Walt, the old station porter, holding a covered glass jar. The smell hit Ray immediately. Warm peach cobbler, fresh out of the oven. "Mr. Harmon just had a baby girl," Walt said. First one after 15 years of trying. He had his wife's sister bake cobbler for the whole crew to celebrate. "He wants you to walk a jar down to old Frank, out at the signal box past the bend. Poor man's out there alone all night. Figured it'd bring him some joy." Ray looked at the jar. Warm, sweet smelling, harmless. The signal box was only about 15 minutes down the tracks. Now, there's an old saying in these hills, passed down from grandparents to grandkids. Never carry something sweet, uncovered, alone, down a dark road at night. They say sweet things call to things that shouldn't be called. Ray was young. He didn't believe in any of that. He grabbed his heavy steel flashlight, tucked the jar under one arm, and walked out into the dark. The night was so silent, Ray could hear his own boots on the gravel between the rails. Nothing else. No crickets, no wind. About halfway down the line, he noticed something. Footsteps behind him, matching his pace exactly. When he walked faster, they walked faster. When he stopped, they stopped. Ray spun around, flashlight raised. "Walt, that you?" "Nothing. Just black nothing, stretching back down the tracks. He told himself it was his imagination and kept walking. But near the old dead sycamore, the one everybody just called the hanging tree, though nobody remembered why, his flashlight beam landed on a shape, a man standing perfectly still beneath the tree, in the middle of nowhere, at 2 a.m. Ray's chest tightened. He raised the light higher onto the man's face. The stranger was staring straight at him, unblinking, eyes wide open, like they'd been open for hours. Ray tried to walk past him, but as he passed, the man began walking too, silent, matching his pace, staying 2 or 3 feet away, like a shadow that had learned to move on its own. That's when Ray asked the question we opened with. "Who are you? What are you doing out here at midnight?" "I live just up ahead." "You live up ahead? Then what were you doing standing under that tree?" The man's eyes dropped to the jar. "What's that? Smells like something sweet's coming. Give me some." Ray told him no, said it belonged to someone else, that he was just delivering it. But if the man wanted, he could walk with him to the station and get something there. The man ignored the offer completely. His voice started to change, deeper now, and wrong, like it was coming from somewhere much bigger than his body. "I'm not going to the station. I'll eat right here. Give it to me, now." When the thing lunged for the jar, Ray reacted on pure instinct. He swung his fist as hard as he could into the man's jaw. And that's when everything went wrong. His fist didn't hit bone. It didn't hit skin. It went straight through, like punching a hole into freezing black nothing. A cold shot up his arm so fast, it felt like his whole body had been dunked in ice water. The man, or whatever it was, flew backward into the bushes at the edge of the tracks. And the second it did, a wave of heat rolled over Ray, like someone had opened a furnace door 2 inches from his face. Then, from the bushes, a voice, not human, deep and rattling, shaking the air around him. "You shouldn't have done that. I will have my revenge." Ray swung his flashlight toward the bushes. Nothing was there. The thing had vanished into thin air, shaking, his arms still numb with cold. Ray understood this was not a man. This was something old, something that walked these tracks long before the railway ever came through. And he had just made it angry. He pulled a cigarette from his shirt pocket, lit it with trembling hands, and kept it burning between his fingers as he half ran the rest of the way to the signal box. Old Frank was there, alone, oil lamp glowing. Ray handed him the cobbler, and still shaking, told him everything. Frank's face went pale. "Son, that wasn't a man you crossed paths with. That was something from the dark part of these woods, and you struck it. It's going to want to settle that." Frank handed Ray his own lit hurricane lamp. "Take this. Whatever that thing is, it can't stand fire. Fire and light. They hate it more than anything. Keep this raised the whole way back. Don't let it go out." Ray took the lamp in one hand, his flashlight in the other, and started back. Then, the wind just stopped completely. No crickets, no leaves rustling, total silence. His flashlight beam swept forward and landed on something standing in the middle of the tracks, maybe 20 feet ahead. A dog, enormous, black as coal, and its eyes weren't animal eyes. They glowed like 2 burning embers, locked directly on him. It bared its teeth and let out a growl that didn't sound like it belonged to anything alive. Ray's blood ran cold. He remembered Frank's words. It hates fire. He kept the flashlight beam locked on the creature's eyes, raised the burning lamp high in his other hand, and forced himself to walk forward, one shaking step at a time, praying under his breath the whole way. Just as he got close enough to nearly touch it, a sound broke the silence. Footsteps, lantern light, voices, 2 railway workers coming down the line on their evening patrol. The second their lanterns hit the tracks, the creature let out a horrible shriek and vanished sideways into the dark, like it had been yanked off the earth by an invisible rope. Ray didn't wait around to think about how close that timing had been. He ran the rest of the way with the 2 workers, straight to his quarters, and bolted the door so hard the frame shook. He kept that hurricane lamp burning right next to his bed until sunrise. He never spent another night in that building again. Here's where Daniel's story takes the turn that made his grandfather's voice shake every single time he told it. About a week later, Ray had just finished another overnight shift. It was 3 a.m. Exhausted, he bolted his door, pulled the blanket over himself, and fell into a deep sleep almost instantly. Then a sound woke him. A slow, dragging, sweeping sound, coming from the tracks outside, like someone sweeping gravel with a broom over and over in the pitch dark. At first, he tried to ignore it, but the sound kept going, hour after hour, and something about it pulled at him, like it was designed to be heard, designed to drag him out of bed. Half asleep, almost in a trance, Ray opened the window shutters and looked out. There, on the tracks, was a figure, bent over, slowly sweeping the gravel between the rails with an old broom, wearing the same dusty, old-fashioned clothes as the man from the sycamore tree. Ray should have stayed inside. Instead, in a daze he couldn't explain, like something else was steering his own legs. He grabbed his flashlight, walked out the door, and stepped onto the tracks. He called out. The figure didn't answer, didn't even look up, just kept sweeping, moving slowly forward down the line. Ray followed. He walked faster. The distance didn't close. He nearly broke into a run. The gap only grew wider, like the space between them was being stretched by something invisible. But his legs kept carrying him forward anyway, pulled toward the dark, like it had a hold on him. He didn't even notice they were approaching the dead sycamore tree again. Then, a hard shove from behind snapped him awake, like breaking the surface of deep water. His flashlight hit the ground. Ray spun around. There was no sweeper, no figure, nothing, just empty tracks, and him standing directly beneath the hanging tree, the exact spot where it had first spoken to him. Beside him stood Walt and another night watchman, both out of breath, lanterns shaking in their hands. "Ray," Walt gasped. "Ray, what are you doing out here? We saw you walk out your front door around 3:15. You were shouting at someone, waving your arms, saying, 'Come on, come out, whatever revenge you want.' But there was nobody there. We called your name the whole way here. You never once looked back." That's when it hit Ray, all at once. The thing under the tree had promised revenge, and it hadn't been trying to scare him away that night. It had been leading him back. Ray's knees gave out. He collapsed right there on the tracks. He quit the railway 2 weeks later and never spent another night at Hollow Creek Station again. To this day, nobody knows what would have happened if Walt hadn't looked out onto that porch at exactly the right moment. And nobody knows what Ray was really being led toward, under that tree, in the dark. If you made it this far, you know exactly why this one stuck with me. If this story got under your skin, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Would you have gone back outside that night or stayed locked behind that door? Subscribe if you want more true stories like this one, sent in by real people about things they can't explain. Stay safe out there. And if you ever hear something sweeping the dark, don't go looking for it.